1992.
Now, in terms of movies, 1992 saw the release of some major blockbuster hits, some of which have gone on to achieve legendary status in the movie industry. Disney's Aladdin was released in November of 1992 and went on to do fantastic numbers in the box office, becoming the highest grossing movie of that year. For an animated movie, that was quite a feat. It was part of that great run of animated movies that Disney were releasing on a yearly basis, with The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast preceding it. Undoubtedly, the star of the movie was the late great Robin Williams as the voice of the genie.
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck!
After getting left alone at home the first time, Macaulay Culkin returns as Kevin McAllister, and this time he gets lost in the Big Apple of New York City. Not quite sure why it's Home Alone when he's nowhere near his home. A funny movie with some very hysterical moments, but just falls short of the first movie in my opinion. In what was one of his more successful periods in his career, we got a double dose of Eddie Murphy. First as a con man who finds his way into the United States Congress as the Distinguished Gentleman, and then as a serial womanizer in Boomerang. This movie had a plethora of big names, including future Oscar winner Halle Berry as his love interest, Robin Givens as his madam, and bad boy Martin Lawrence. The 90s had a string of successful action movies with Wesley Snipes, and this year saw him take to the skies in one of my favourite Wesley Snipes action flicks, Passenger 57. Snipes stars as the head of security John Cutter, trying to thwart an escaped terrorist, Charles Rain, and his gang from killing passengers so he can achieve his goal of staying out of prison. Not by any means an Oscar award winner, but a cool action popcorn flick.
Always bet on black.
It wasn't just the action that caught my eye, there was also drama, and they didn't come any bigger than legal drama classic A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson. Who could ever forget that fantastic showdown towards the end of the movie?
I think I'm entitled. You want answers! I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
The movie also starred Demi Moore, Kevin Bacon, ER legend Noah Wyle, and Mr. 24 Kiefer Sutherland. 1992 also saw the release of biodrama X, starring Denzel Washington as the political activist Malcolm X. The movie touched on several key aspects in X's life, including his dealings with racism as a young child, his conversion to Islam, his views on white people's actions towards the black community during that time period. A very dramatic and harrowing movie based on real life events. There was comedy hijinks in My Cousin Vinny, starring Joe Pesci as a recently new lawyer assigned the task of defending two New Yorkers for a crime they did not commit. As he's a new lawyer who's only just passed the bar, it yields a host of comedic moments. A very funny and entertaining comedy also starring Marissa Tomei and Karate Kid Ralph Macchio. After back-to-back hits with House Party 1 and 2, Kid and Play made their third consecutive appearance on the big screen, but this time it was no house party but a real class act. The duo tried their hand in what was dubbed an urban take on the famous Prince and the Pauper story by Mark Twain. Kid is a goody two-shoes straight A student, Play is an ex-convict. The two get their identities switched, and all manner of chaos occurs living in each other's shoes. Like House Parties 2 to 5, this film just falls short of the high standards set by the first House Party movie. That said, it is an excellent addition to Kid and Play's movie library and is a fun film to watch with some very funny parts. Hey, what happened to Kid's high fade? And rounding out the movies is Disney flick The Mighty Ducks, a movie about a disgraced lawyer, Gordon Bombay, who is forced to coach a team of hockey team misfits, and they are absolutely hopeless at the game of hockey. Now as the movie progresses, Bombay becomes more enamored with the job and the team and helps them get better, and leads them to victory in the junior finals. A number of well-recognized faces star in this movie, including Joshua Jackson, Jesse Smollett, Brandon Adams, and Emilio Estevez. A really fun, good feel movie for the whole family, as only Disney can do. As I have stated over and over again in previous videos, the 1990s were awash with sitcoms galore, a truly great decade for laugh-out-loud entertainment in this genre. 1992 saw the debuts of some standouts. Mad About You, starring Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt as a married couple living their lives in New York. This just seems to be the one place where a lot of sitcoms go, a la Spin City or Friends. A little confession, Mad About You was not one of those sitcoms that I really grew up on, or have I taken the time to binge watch during this era of streaming services and digital downloads. I saw a few episodes here and there, but have never really taken the time to sit down and watch it fully. Maybe eventually one day I will do so. Hey, I managed to do it with Living Single, so this could be another 90s show to catch up on. Fresh from his big screen successes in House Party 1 and 2, Martin Lawrence took his success to the small screen and starred in his own sitcom, Martin, a show about a disc jockey and his own show on the brilliantly named What's Up radio station. Along with his hijinks with his girlfriend and his 3 friends, Martin was particularly remembered for Lawrence portraying several outlandish characters, including his own mother and next door neighbor Shanae. It really did cement him as one of the kings of comedy during the 1990s. Comedian Mark Curry starred in his own sitcom Hanging with Mr. Cooper, a show about a former basketball player who moves in with his 2 female roommates and then takes on the life of a high school teacher and coach. The dynamic of the show changes from its second season when Raven Simone from The Cosby Show and That's So Raven is introduced to the show, giving it a more family-themed sitcom feel as opposed to the route it was taking as a more mature-based sitcom in the form of a Living Single from the first season. It's a sitcom that I enjoyed at the time, but watching it back now, it hasn't really held up as well as other great black sitcoms from this era. Perspective changes with time. Teen sitcoms were running rife in this period, and from the producers of Saved by the Bell came this new sitcom dubbed by some as Saved by the Bell with a Band, Surf Dudes with Attitudes, California Dreams. A very similar setup to The Bell, right down to its look, tone and cheesy acting. This was more of a guilty pleasure for its legions of fans that was just a fun Saturday morning entertainment show not to be taken seriously. Even though it was a Saved by the Bell clone, I felt it did more than enough to establish itself with its own identity. And ending the sitcom run, 1992 saw the debut of The Golden Palace, a spin-off from the iconic Golden Girls. Now this show only lasted 1 season and was basically Golden Girls in a hotel, but without Dorothy, a key figure in the show's run. Given the success of Golden Girls, it was always going to be a tall order without Dorothy for the show to follow in its footsteps. It did see a future Marvel character in Don Cheadle aka War Machine Jim Rhodes star in its lineup. Moving on to cartoon fun, Disney always seemed to churn out show after show year upon year on top of their animated movie features. 1992 saw Disney give Goofy his own animated series called The Goof Troop, a show that I watched on and off as a youngster, and I don't really remember a lot about it. It wasn't in the same category as DuckTales or Darkwing Duck, and watching it back, I don't really have the nostalgia feel for it. I did like the Goof Troop movie though. There was Conan the Adventurer. I loved this cartoon then and I love it now. Wizards, sorcerers, sorceresses, monsters, giant snakes, lizards, barbarian warriors. This show had the lot, along with well-told exciting stories mixed with a nice blend of action and a continuous series plot of Conan freeing his parents from the spell of Livingstone by the evil villain Rathamon. The show lasted an impressive 65 episodes over 2 seasons. It was a fantastic show. The Little Mermaid made her small screen debut this year, 3 years after her big motion picture debut. The show was a fun little adventure which only lasted 31 episodes, but much like the Goof Troop, not one of my more fondly remembered Disney small screen outings, especially when you compare it to the Aladdin series that was to follow just 2 years later. Now let's move on to the juicy stuff. DC and Marvel, bringing some of their iconic comic characters to life in the animated world, and it didn't get any bigger than these two behemoths: Batman the Animated Series and the X-Men. Some would credit these two shows with giving birth to the animated roles of both their respective brands. These two shows absolutely changed the landscape for superhero TV shows and was worlds away from what we saw from previous animated incarnations. The new Batman show had a noir look and feel to it, with very intriguing storylines and superb voice acting, with special mentions going out to the masters Kevin Conroy and Luke Skywalker Mark Hamill as the definitive Batman and Joker. Tons of fans worldwide would agree with that very statement. Add to it the plethora of awesome villains and allies, and this show was an absolute must-watch for fans, not just of cartoons and comic books, but fans of good all-round entertainment in animation. The X-Men took animated storytelling to a brand new level. It wasn't so much a story of good versus evil, but a story of bigotry, intolerance, and acceptance. The show found the right formula to entertain audiences of all ages, with the younger folks enjoying the action, and the teens and the adults enjoying the great storytelling. Watching the X-Men protect humanity from powerful enemies, but having to put up with humanity's hatred for them, made for an excellent dynamic that wasn't too common for animated shows until that point. The characters themselves having to deal with their own personal struggles just made for an all-round entertaining show. Can we please have these shows back, but with modern updates? Come on, I think there's an audience for it. So there you have it, some of my favourite subjects from 1992. Now of course there's a lot more that happened that year, but these are just some of my own personal highlights. Do you have any subjects you enjoyed from this year? If you do, let me know in the comments. But on the whole, a very memorable year with unforgettable gems released, and this would solidify that
it was the year 1992.